He's like a skater, jock, guard dog hybrid, and I want one. If Mila Kunis gets one, I want one. I mean, I might not be queen of the entire universe, but it's my birthday soon. Hello, welcome to my daily lockdown videos, which I'm doing to keep myself sane, and also so that you and I can keep each other company. And it's Sunday, which means that is movie day. So I have my popcorn and my drink. Oh, I make that look very small. This is a mixing bowl. I've got big hands, I guess. What I'm going to be doing is just sort of talking about what kind of happens in the film, what I liked about the film, which I've kind of organised into a list of all of the iconic things about Jupiter Ascending. Now, spoilers ahead, I'm going to be talking about plot points, so if you haven't seen the film yet, go away, watch it, you're going to love it, and then come back and we'll talk about it. So let's begin with the disclaimer that you're not going to love this film because it's a brilliant film, okay? It's like this kind of epic space soap drama type thing with action sequences and just like sick costuming and stuff. It's by the Wachowskis, and it's starring in the lead role Mila Kunis. And I don't know about you, but I'd watch Mila Kunis eat a breakfast. Like, she's just so, she brings a likability to everything I see her in. Even from like, you know, I didn't watch that 70s show until quite late in the game. I think maybe only like a year, 2 years ago or something like that. And she's just, you know, she's supposed to be playing a spoiled brat in it, and she even makes that likable. But, and also that Bad Moms, is it, the film? Bad Moms. Loved it. Then again, that also had Kristen Bell in it, and I love her to pieces. Just the charisma. Anyway, the plot of the film begins with, you see her dad being taken away and whatever, and no, not being taken away. He has his telescope taken away, and he like desperately doesn't want these people to rob his telescope, and so he tries to stop them, and then he gets shot and killed. And they take the telescope right over the telescope. And so she works with her Russian family as a cleaner. They're all like sort of live together, work together, earn together, and she wants to save up to buy a telescope like her dad used to have. But you know, she's very like big fish, small pond. She clearly doesn't belong there. She doesn't love it. They show her cleaning toilets a lot and stuff like that. And like, you generally get the idea that she's not very satisfied with that life. And so then she goes to sell some of her eggs to make money, which then she's going to split 50-50 with like her cousin or something, who's really like a bit of a slime ball. But like, baby, they're your eggs. I don't think the film does the film doesn't have a very good job of establishing why it is that he needs to be cut in on the deal. Like, she's going there and she's selling her eggs and she's, you know, using someone else's identity and stuff. Like, I don't get why. Maybe they do mention it, I've just forgotten, but there doesn't seem to be a decent reason why he has to be cut in on the deal. Anyway, when she was at one of her cleaning jobs, she saw aliens, but then the aliens were like, they wiped her mind or something, but she got a picture of them on her phone, and then she didn't remember taking the picture because of what the aliens did, and the aliens took the lady whose house she was cleaning, and they thought that it was going to be the lady whose house she was cleaning that they wanted to kidnap, but it was actually Mila Kunis, because Mila Kunis at the birth clinic had used that lady's name. And then they're there when she goes there. But they're all dressed as doctors. And they're like little grey-haired aliens. Little nasty grey-haired aliens that can't speak English. But when she goes in there, it quickly becomes apparent that they are the entire medical team in the room when she goes to donate her eggs. Like, they're the aliens dressed up as them, but they're like talking English, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's a bit strange. The beginning of the movie as well sets up the kind of like villainous characters. There's three major villains who are like super rich and in space, and their siblings. They own like space empires or something, I don't know. They set up this kind of like loosey-goosey kind of business empire type feel with it, where all these siblings, these three evil siblings are, you know, business people as well. And that's why they're so rich and why they're like royalty. But anyway, one of them is like this really gorgeous blonde lady. Another one of them is like this kind of swarthy kind of Taylor Kitsch type. Is his name Taylor Kitsch or Taylor Hitch? Hang on. Taylor Kitsch. You remember when he had long hair? That's what this dude looks like. He looks like Taylor Kitsch. And then there's the third bad sibling who's clearly the worst because he's played by Eddie Redmayne. And I think Eddie Redmayne won like a Razzie for this or something, but he's making some choices playing this character, right? Like, he's kind of like, he's got this kind of like he's like he's playing Voldemort or something as this dude. and it's so weird. Like, I can't get what must have gone through his mind when he was thinking of how he was playing this role, right? Like, it's kind of disgusting, but I can't stop watching it. Like, I'm obsessed with him in this film. Like, it's like watching pimple popping videos, right? You don't like what's happening in front of you, but you're gonna watch it because where's it going? And you know where it's going, but you still say to yourself every time, like, what's gonna happen? What's Eddie Redmayne gonna burst out with this time? And it's, delight. He's a delight to watch, but he's like clearly the big evil because of like what he's giving it. And then Channing Tatum turns up and he rescues, where were we? Oh yeah, Mila Kunis, when she's like, you know, in the stirrups and stuff, she's being levitated into the air. Were there stirrups? I don't know. When she's donating her eggs and the grey aliens are about to like take her away, then Channing Tatum turns up and saves her by skating all around the room. And then they end up having this fight scene like out in the streets and they're blowing everything up and there's like crashing into, I think like, okay, so Channing Tatum was gonna like take Mila Kunis away, but then that ship got shot down and there's like they're destroying the scenery and they're breaking up all of the skyscrapers and stuff and you're like, shit, like someone must notice this, like someone must see this is going on. But then it turns out that like they can wipe people's memories and stuff, so it doesn't matter. And they have like bots that like automatically regenerate the buildings and stuff. So when Channing Tatum is taking Mila Kunis out of the city to get her away into the countryside so that she's safe, because they're trying to kidnap her, right? Like, I don't know if I said that, but clearly they're like trying to get hold of her and take her away. But Channing Tatum takes her into the countryside so that he can like protect her and she's away from it. Anyway, and then she like looks back in the car and she's like, what's going on? Like, everyone should know. And he's like, no, look, we can fix buildings. And then she looks back and, you know, everything's getting fixed automatically. And he's like, no one will remember. He got injured, right, during the fight and everything like that. And she's like, luckily this is a woman's car. And she goes in the glove compartment and she pulls out a maxi pad and she sticks it to his injury. I think it's like here. And I was just like... whatever that scene was trying to tell us, I think they really overshot the mark, being like, luckily this is a woman's car, and then using a maxi pad to stop his bleeding. Like, women are so resourceful, you guys. Like, I get that, that's sick, but I don't think that moment hit in the film. So then they drive to Sean Bean's house, right, who lives out in the countryside, and there's loads of bees everywhere. Sean Bees. Bees. Anyway, he looks good in this film, you guys. He looks really good. Like they're doing something different with his hair or something. I don't know, man. Sean Bean is hot in this movie. Hotter than Channing Tatum, and I feel like that shouldn't happen. Like there's some alchemy going on. Well, alchemy or like, you know, daddy issues. So anyway, in my opinion, the first majorly iconic thing to happen is there's this line where Sean Bean sees all of these bees that he keeps are swirling around Mila Kunis. Sean Bean sees that all these bees he keeps are swarming around Mila Kunis, but they're not hurting her, they're just like around her, and she sort of has this funny thing where she goes, oh, and the bees are like responding to her, and then they say bees are genetically made to recognize queens, or something like that. Like, the reason that the bees are around her is that they recognize she's a queen. Iconic. Brilliant. I wish I could remember the real line because it's delivered like with such, like, I don't know, he delivers it really softly and it's kind of like northern voice that he's got because he's Sean Bean and he sounds really great. Sean Bean looks so good in this movie, you guys. And like, actually the next iconic thing that I think happens is she gets a call from her cousin who's already bought like a TV and a PlayStation and stuff like that with all the money that he doesn't even have yet from those eggs. And she also, as soon as she was like, I'm going to sell my eggs, she placed a bid on a metal golden telescope or something on eBay. And then it's like, wait till you've got the money. Like, you haven't been paid yet. I don't know how these kind of things go down, but if it's anything like, I don't know, a survey or a medical experiment, you might be waiting months. Anyway, spending all your money before you have it, big mood. That's another iconic thing that happens. And so then other bounty hunters turn up to this farm to try and take Mila Kunis away from Channing Tatum, who I think by now we found out is like, I think they call him like a splice or something. He is half dog. Like, he's half human and he's half dog. And he's made to be a soldier because like dogs are loyal or something. And like, I don't know if you've seen him in this film, but the most they give him is like this kind of big lower jaw and some elf ears. Like, it doesn't look particularly anything like a dog to me. Oh, and Sean Bean and he's got a little daughter as well. They're supposed to be like part B. He just looks like a person. Anyway, these new bounty hunters turn up, and there's one of them who is played by Sun from Sense8, and I recognised her. But as a bounty hunter, she's kind of like done up in this kind of Harajuku style. And I think that to make the Asian bounty hunter dressed up in like kind of goth cyberpunk Harajuku kind of style is just a little bit, I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me. Like, she's from space. Do they have that kind of region of Japanese fashion in space? Like, she's not from Earth. Why is she being costumed racially? Anyway, they nick her, they take her away, and then like firing a weapon. Their weapon like has kind of like a sound wave thing, right? Like, it stuns people. It's like wow, 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 and then it takes them out. And then like they fire it, and as they're flying away from where they fired it, it's like a perfect intricate crop circle. So I'm like, oh, haha, get it? Crop circles are made by when they visit the planet. But also, like, that weapon was just a wow, 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 like a wave. There's no way it did an intricate crop circle. But that was pretty iconic anyway, just to brazenly be like, that's crop circles, eh? Get it? So then she gets taken to like this palace, and she's floating there in this gorgeous gown. Iconic. First of many incredible costumes in this is when she's floating in that gown. She looks incredible. But then she's walking through this room that's like balls to the wall lit candles, like all these little tea lights and stuff. To the point that the entire floor of this like room in this palace is candles bar this like thin walkway down the middle. And she and this other lady, who I think is one of the bad siblings, they're like wearing these long flowing gowns. I was like, you're going to set yourself on fire, girl. Be careful. And she starts to tell her that she is, that Mila Kunis is the, Mila Kunis is the, like, resurgence, I think they might call it. Basically, because people have lived for so long, for so many years, like, your genetics happen again, and they count that as, like, reincarnation. So someone is born that's basically exactly genetically identical to you. Oh, because humans run the universe, by the way. They're all over the shop. It's not just Earth. Earth is just a little planet. Yeah, so then she finds out that she is like the resurgence, reoccurrence. I think it might be reoccurrence. She's the reoccurrence of like the queen of the universe, like their mum, the three siblings, their mum. She owns everything. She's iconic, she's opulent. And she left a will for her recurrence, which is apparently a common thing, right? Like, you leave a will so that if you die, the next time you reoccur genetically, you give them all your stuff. And that, to me, seems really stupid. Really stupid. I don't get that. There's like no logic to it whatsoever. That is a different person, different identity. It's never put to Mila Kunis that she's gonna like inherit the memories of that woman or anything. Like, it's just like, oh, you've got the same genes, so she's gonna give you the infinite money she's got to run the entire galaxy. Like, everything she's ever earned, you're gonna have. It's basically infinite money. It'll make you richer than any of these three siblings just because you look like her, right? That's so dumb, so dumb. Like, that person, my reoccurrence might be a right dickhead, and then I'm not going to want him to have my stuff. It's not me. Like, I'm not being reborn as him. I'm a different identity. Do you know what I mean? Whatever, like, it just it seems really dumb to me. Like, I don't get it. Then the girl sibling is like, I'll have to show you. It's easier for me to show you than it is to tell you. And she takes her to this statue of her mother, and it looks nothing like Mila Kunis. Like, it's a statue, not a wax figure, right? So it's tough to really kind of, it doesn't have to be exactly like her, but for her to be like, I'll have to show you what I mean, and then take her to this statue of a woman with long hair, it's like, I think you might need to add more context. But no, Mila Kunis gets it. She sees the statue and she's like, that's me. Like, she's in Madame Tussauds or something. And all the time that she's doing that, like, Channing Tatum is scaling the building to like come and get her. Oh, and by the way, like, he has these kind of like space anti-gravity roller skates. That's his thing, right? That's his gimmick, which he seems to be able to kind of fly with ish. It seems like maybe it's more like gliding, like he can't get any lift, but he can, like, you know, kind of skate in the air downwards ish. I don't know. It's not really, the mechanics of it are never really super explained, and I'm glad they didn't, because I hate when movies do that. Just it does that. That's fine by me. It's space skates. And at this point, all I'm thinking is like, I would love to have a guard dog boyfriend who is like a cyberpunk skater boy jock himbo, right? He's thick set, he's Channing Tatum, he's spending lots of this time shirtless, skating, shooting, fighting. I'm into it. He's like a skater, jock, guard dog hybrid, and I want one. If Mila Kunis gets one, I want one. I mean, I might not be queen of the entire universe, but it's my birthday soon. So then, I've written in my notes here, another iconic moment, Jupiter makes a poo joke and Kane laughs quietly like, I like poo, I'm a dog. What was that poo joke? I'm just trying to think. I think actually, like, there might have been, she might have said something about her bowels, right? Or she said something about, oh, I don't know. She said something about her bowels, and like, it's cool because she's like, she's down to earth, you know, she's not fancy, she's just you and me, you know? And it is funny, but I just thought that, like, you know, I need to start making more detailed notes when I'm watching the movie. Anyway, okay, so I just had a little bit of a look and a research, and Googling Jupiter ascending poo joke doesn't bring anything up, so I'm sorry about that, but like, you'll know it when you see it, and it's just, it's great. And like, weirdly, like, not strange. Like, I think that Mila Kunis is a really good casting for this role because she just has something about her that is so down to earth and chatty that she just, you know, she just seems like your friend, even though she's, you know, now the queen of space, but she doesn't get weird and grand about it, and she's always just like a little bit lost everywhere she is, and I just really like that. In like this kind of movie world we find ourselves in that's full of like Katnisses, right, where she's so stoic and like she's into fighting and stuff like that. You have Mila Kunis in this film who just kind of sucks, but she's very headstrong, and that's so, like, it's refreshing, right? Because we kind of suck. Like, I don't know about you, I can't shoot a bow and arrow, but what I can do is spend money on telescopes and fawn over someone I just met 20 minutes ago because he's a hot skater, guard dog, jock himbo, right? So like, she's in love with him. I remember thinking like, how can she be professing her love for him already? We're like 20 minutes in, this is insane. And then I checked the time code and it was like an hour. Like, we were already an hour into the movie. It was crazy. Like, there's so much setup that goes on. And it's just so much fun watching all of it. I think it's that part of that same conversation where she says that she loves him, that he's like, he says to her, you know, we can't be together, it would never work. Like, you're royalty and I'm just a splice, like I'm part dog. And her answer is, I love dogs. It's the best. Like, what did she, I don't know. Like, it's writing that's just like knowingly naff enough to come back around and just be great, right? Like, ugh. So then, I forget where we are in terms of like the timelining, right? But there's this scene where they have to go through loads of space bureaucracy to get her the forms she needs to collect her title as Queen of the Universe. And there's some like really nice world building going on here because the whole thing kind of smacks of like, I don't know, like Diagon Alley. Do you know what I mean? In Harry Potter, but like in space. And there's even this like really old dude. There's sort of like they've got their own space Ollivander, right? And what I really liked about it, it was kind of world building-y in the sense that like everything you're shown, every spaceship and everywhere is like, well, most of the things you're showing up until then are like huge and grand, and they've got like marble statues in the spaceport and stuff like that. And it's just, everything screams money. Like, it's this kind of insane, it's as if space was designed through the lens of ancient Greece, right? Everything is flagrant wealth. And then you get to go down to these levels of like the bureaucracy and you see everything's just a little bit more cheap. And then I think that makes everything else look more important and grand in context, right? Like, it gives you a sense of, this isn't just how space is, these people are insanely rich, and like, to get things done they have to go down into the bureaucracy and like, you know, rub shoulders with the common folk and stuff. And it's really, really good. I really like it. But it does feel a little bit, because the film is so full of grandness, right? It does feel a little bit disconnected. Like, it feels like a scene from a bit of a different movie, really. But I think that they could have maybe done a bit more to show that she connected with people like that, because obviously she's a cleaner, right? She comes from humble beginnings. Maybe they could have shown her feeling a little bit more comfortable in that environment than she was in, like, amongst the richness. But no, she's generally just like bored and impatient like everyone else is when they have to spend all day running up and down Space Diagon Alley. What I found weird is that all the way down through all these different people they have to visit and all these different, like, this different kind of paperwork stages they have to deal with, which is hugely tedious, they still call her Your Majesty all the way down. So why, if they already acknowledge that she is the new Queen of Space, why is she having to do this? Why does she have to be there and do this? Why can't someone else do it for her? Do you know what I mean? They acknowledge that she's royalty. Why are they making her... You would never see one of the siblings, one of the three crazy siblings. Like, could you imagine Eddie Redmayne going through Space Diagon Alley and being patient enough to... No way, man. No way. But so then she gets taken away by the third sibling, the one who's like a bit like Taylor Kitsch, right? He's a bit swarthy, a bit flirty. And he says that he needs to marry Mila Kunis so that they can... So that if he gets killed, or when he gets killed, because he's convinced that he's going to be killed because he was following in his mother's footsteps of being a good person, that she will inherit all of his stuff. And I'm like, that's not how wills work. And one would hope that Mila Kunis would know that, because she's spent so long down in the bureaucracy reading all these books that she's now quoting the laws to him. But maybe that's just not how wills work in space. Maybe they do have to get married. This camera only films up to half an hour, so it cut off and I lost, like, quite a lot. Anyway, let's find out where I was. Oh yeah, we find out she's a dom, basically, because she says that, you know, her guard dog boyfriend is the only one who doesn't make her uncomfortable when he calls her Your Majesty. So then I'm like, oh yeah, you're going to be getting him to call you that a lot, are you? In fact, she does. She's like, say it again. And he's like, Your Majesty. And she's like, oh, like, she's into it. I think she's she's going to become like a, oh, what's the word? Madame? Mistress? Like a mistress? I don't know. I'm not big into that community. I just know that they make bank and they have fun doing it. But I guess, you know, when you own all of space, you probably don't need to... Is it dominatrix? Is that what I was thinking of? I don't know. Anyway, the idea of Channing Tatum getting dommed is kind of cool. So anyway, we find out that, you know, the sexy, seductive Taylor Kitsch brother is going to kill her as soon as they're married, because then he can take all of her estate and all of her business. And so it's like, oh, so that was your plan all along. Okay, bet. But she quotes some law to him that she learnt while she was down in bureaucracy land. And so she's clearly a quick study, right, of the laws. So... surely that she should know how wills work and that she doesn't have to marry him in order to inherit all of his stuff. But then maybe laws work differently in space, who knows? You know, especially when it's that much money, maybe it's easier if they're just married, who knows? And then her boyfriend gets flung out into space. I say her boyfriend, you know, Channing Tatum, dogman, jock, skater boy, hybrid, splice, gets chucked out into space, but he's okay because he grabbed a spacesuit on the way out, and then he's waiting there to get picked up by Sean Bean. Bean, get it? B. And then they infiltrate the wedding and they, you know, break everything up and they say, you know, they expose it for what it is. And then, like, the hot, seductive, you know, get around brother is like, you're such a loser. You're so gullible. My mother would never be so gullible. And she's like, I'm not your mother. And he's, like, basically really chewing her out for being gullible and for falling for it. And it's like, dude, she's been in space, like, 18 hours and she's just been told so many things she doesn't understand. She's seen so many things that are so new to her. She doesn't know what any of it means. She's having to take everyone at face value. So the idea that, you know, just as a coping mechanism, she's kind of believing everyone by default because they know a lot more about this world than she does. I don't think that's gullible. I think that that's sensible. Like, yeah, okay, maybe it would be sensible to be super skeptical, but what reason do you have? Everyone else just seems to be confidently going along with it and showing you that all of this stuff is normal, even if you don't have any frame of reference for what it means or what normal is in this new world of, like, you know, oh yeah, you're the queen of everything. Anyway, he's a dick. But she does wear this beautiful white wedding gown with roses on it, and it's just gorgeous, right? Like, whoever did the costuming for this movie, they did it right. Like, when you watch this movie, you are going to love what everyone's wearing. It's so cool. Normally, I'm not like, you know, I'm not a fashion guy, right? Like I'm wearing a sweaty grey vest with a not denim overshirt, but just it's really got to be appreciated. And also, like, I think at this point in the movie, I thought to myself, like, Channing Tatum's kind of got that Hugh Jackman thing going on where he's just so much hotter in motion. Like you see pictures of Hugh Jackman in the magazines or something like that or whatever, or see pictures of Channing Tatum in the magazines, you're like, oh yeah, he's okay. And we're talking like celebrity hot here, okay? Because obviously if I saw either of them in the street, I'd be floored. But when you talk about hot celebrities, you are talking about an unrealistic fantasy bracket, okay? So yeah, you see them on Google Images or in a magazine and you're like, oh okay. And then you see like Hugh Jackman in Wolverine and you're like, oh, or you see, you know, Channing Tatum in this movie and you're like, ooh, it's just like seeing them move makes them so much hotter. I think maybe because they get to sell it with a bit of charisma as well. But so then something happens after that and she gets kidnapped by Eddie Redmayne. And Eddie Redmayne has kidnapped her family. So then, basically, he's got the best plan of all of them. Like the rest of them are so theatrical. Which I guess is for their personalities, right? Like, Seductive Brother has to put on a big wedding show and it's about love and about feelings because he's so, like, emotionally manipulative. The sister is very showy and shows her all about being beautiful and young and doesn't seem to have a plan to take any of that away from her. I guess maybe she's the foil to... Is she the foil to Mila Kunis? What happens is Eddie Redmayne is like, oh, I've got your family... sign everything over to me or I'll kill them. And it's like basically the best plan of that any of them had because he's like, right, she's got a loving family, I'll threaten them until she signs over the whole estate to me. And then she nearly does it. It's like direct, it's to the point, and if he hadn't delivered it so crazily, then it would just seem very logical, right? But here's another thing I like about Mila Kunis. The character's name is Jupiter. Did I say that yet? Or did I just call her Mila Kunis this whole time? Anyway, she's called Jupiter. That's why it's called Jupiter Ascending, because she's like ascending to being Queen of the Universe, right? Anyway, so then he says to Jupiter, I've got your whole family, sign over or I'll kill them. And then she's like, she does think about it, but then she's like, no, just kill me and my family because I'm not letting you harvest the planet. And I'm like, yes. For once, there's like a heroic character that's doing the maths, right? Like, I feel like other hero characters would be like, no, please don't hurt my family, and just not take into account the fact that you're actually saving billions, right? But anyway, she does, and it's like a cool sacrifice, and I like that, because she's not like just like a dumb hero character who's heroic to a fault, right? Like, she's making sensible decisions. And I think there's a lot about Jupiter as a character that I really like, because she's like a different kind of fantasy insert. She's not... You know, not every fantasy has to be about like self-empowerment in the sense of like, you know, oh, I might be super poor, but I'm really good at archery and I'm going to take down the government because I'm an action hero, like Katniss, right? Sometimes you just want to like be told you're very special and have like a hot jock skater hybrid himbo boyfriend who's looking out for you and is like acting like your muscle, right? And you get to wear fantastic things and just be told you're special, but then also you get to make the right decisions in the end, right? Like, I really like her. I really like... A fair chunk of this might be because Mila Kunis is just like so likeable and charismatic anyway, but I really like the character of Jupiter. So sometime after she tells Eddie Redmayne to get stuffed, she's like climbing a lot. I don't know, I don't really remember what happens. She's just climbing a lot. The factory starts breaking down because... I keep calling him Hugh Jackman now, because Channing Tatum came in and like did his skating. And did I mention that? He skates, by the way. That's his thing. He like has space skates. And so he comes in and he rescues the family while Eddie Redmayne... Oh, that's it. Yeah, Eddie Redmayne's chasing after Jupiter while she's climbing away. But for a sizable amount of time, he's not there and not pursuing her. So I forgot what she was running away from. I thought she was just climbing to like get higher from the collapsing factory. Anyway, Eddie Redmayne appears out of nowhere and he's like, no! And he like wails on her with a metal bar and she collapses. And then they like have a little tussle, they have a little fight, and she like, kind of like, everything starts collapsing around them, and then she gets the upper hand and like he's like talking about like, what was it? Something along the lines of like, you always hated me, I always hated you, mother, you're horrible. And she's like, I'm not your mother, and she boots him, and then I don't know if it's connected, but then he falls and dies. But I don't think he like she doesn't kill him, right? I think it's some kind of like plot safe way of him like falling to his own death, but she does get a good hit on him, and she gets that line like, "I'm not your mother," and yeah, it's sick. But in some kind of roundabout way, she kills him, and then yeah, that's it. And she gets on the spaceship and she goes home to Earth with her family. And I think they have their memories of it wiped because they're all just sitting around the table being happy with one another. And no, yeah, they must, because they just wake up expecting to go for another day of cleaning. But then the gag of the season is that she's there cleaning, like scrubbing toilets and stuff, when like, now you're the queen of the planet. Can't you like maybe just sneak a bit of dough down to... You hate cleaning toilets. I don't know, anyway, I guess like it's a part of showing that she's back with her family and she realises how good she's got it now, even though, you know, her family could really use the money that she might have from being queen of the planet. But maybe that takes a bit of time, right? Maybe there's still a bit of paperwork to get through, so I'm not going to judge for that. But she's like a new person, and she's waking up at 4 in the morning to make breakfast for her aunt and her mum before they all go out to clean together. And it's just, you know, I can't say that if I found out that I was the richest person not only on the planet but in most of the galaxy, I'd be pulling on my pink marigolds and sticking my hand down a toilet at 4 o'clock in the morning. You could be like using that money to help people or something, right? I don't know. But then in the closing shot, she's like on a roof with Channing Tatum, who's now got some wings, right? I think that there's some kind of attachment that he got stripped of when he wasn't allowed to be a soldier anymore because he got exiled. There's like little plot sprinklings that I haven't mentioned that, you know, because then you have something to discover when you watch it yourself. And then she takes that last moment to reiterate, like, "I like you calling me your majesty, say it again." And then he's like, "Your majesty." And she's like, "Ah." And then it turns out he's teaching her how to use the floating skating boots. So now she can like do the floating skating through the air. And that's it. It's really, really good. Like when it first came out, it caught so much flack as if it was like really bad, a really bad movie. And now it has this like cult following because it's just really good. It's so much fun. And like, I'm not a very good movie reviewer, right? Like all I've done basically is just ramble about what happens in it. I'm sure there are better videos out there doing to death the things that this film does really well and, you know, explaining better what is so great about it. But all I can do is tell you from my personal experiences, I really love it. And like, yeah, it's not going to win any Oscars, but it's so fun. It's such a sci-fi, campy, enjoyable watch that I wish it had done better and we were going to get more of them. But it's, you know, a name like Jupiter Ascending really kind of gives you the impression that there's going to be more films in this series. And maybe at some point it was made so that there would be more films in the series. But as far as I'm aware, there's no plans for anything to happen, which is a shame. And also now, I think maybe just to be a bit defensive, Eddie Redmayne scoffs at his acting in this movie. And I'm like, don't knock the movie because you won a Razzie for it. Like, it's good. The movie's fun. And also, Eddie Redmayne's delivery helps set the tone as this kind of like space camp, enjoyable cheese adventure, right? Like, don't take yourself so seriously. Anyway, I really loved it. And I would give it 4 guard dog boyfriends out of 5. Very watchable. Sean Bean's so hot in it, you guys. Okay, bye.